Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx, and welcome to part 3 of how to be Sub-2 on 5x5. In this part, we're going to be covering some center cases as well as how to apply filters, and that's actually how I want to begin this video. In part 2, I left you with the idea of filters. If you don't know what filters are, maybe you should watch part 2 again. But for centers, you might think it's not that important because, frankly, being color neutral for centers is really easy. I've never had an issue being color neutral on centers, and so it really is counterintuitive for me to tell you to pick two colors that you always do first for centers. But there is a method to my madness, and it has a lot to do with psychological priming. Without getting too specific, what priming is it's influencing your brain to think a certain way or be in a certain mindset. So for example, if I tell you to say rabbit 5 times, and then I tell you to spell hair, a lot of you are going to spell it H-A-R-E instead of H-A-I-R, and that has everything to do with the fact that I told you to say rabbit 5 times first. Another example is if you say milk 5 times, and then I ask you what do cows drink, a good portion of you are going to say milk, even though cows actually drink water. So that's the same principle applied to 5x5. I'm first going to do the white and yellow centers, and that's going to prime my brain to just see the white and yellow pieces more. And once I get to edge pairing, I'm going to see white and yellow pop out more. And then once I get to 3x3 stage, since I've been priming my brain throughout the entire solve, I'm going to be able to find my cross pieces more easily. And so even though it is easy to be color neutral on centers, by priming my brain during centers, it's going to make the rest of the solve a lot easier. So before I get to very specific cases for center building, I have to go over the basic structure. I basically look for either 2x1 bars or 3x1 bars, and it depends on the situation. Generally, I like to use the 2x1 bars more because it's a little bit more versatile, but sometimes if you already have a 3x1 bar built, it's easier to just continue doing that instead of switching over to 2x1s. So now on to the specific cases. This is the first one. I call this half testicle because it looks like a male reproductive organ, except it's missing something. So for something like this, you're basically looking for the corner diagonal to the center, and then you have an edge attached like this. And this is useful because if you have a free edge, I'll just force a case right now, like so. You can ornate the two sides like this, and then if you pair these two and bring it in, you can create a block. Here, this is the full testicle. It's the same principle. If you find a free dot, so ignore this bar, notice how that's just an edge, pair, insert, and then here you have another one, pair, insert, you get a 2x3, and then you can insert your 3x1. This is what I call space shuttle. Basically you have something that looks like a space shuttle, and what you do is you turn the middle layer away, do a U2, turn the middle layer back, and you get a 2x3. Sometimes you get a half shuttle, ignore this corner, you get a half shuttle and then the other 2x1 is here. So if you pair this first, do a U2, and then bring this back up, you get a 2x3. And this is probably the last useful case. This is where you have a T and then you have a free edge, or I like to call these dots for some reason, but you bring this down so it pairs the bar, move it 90 degrees and bring this back up, and then you get a 2x3. So for the last portion of this video, I just want to talk about the last two centers because a lot of people have trouble with this. I do very basic things. You essentially try to make a 2x3 in whatever way possible, be it with 2x1s or with usually 3x1s actually. So for instance, I have the 4-piece L here. I have a 2x1, so I can just join like this. And then you just use this as a buffer to pair the remaining 3x1, like so, and then you can insert. And this is all very intuitive, and you shouldn't use a lot of moves for them. The only one you might have trouble with is here, if you have to swap two edges. There's a couple ways to do this. Generally speaking, I like to use a commutator, but you can also use the space shuttle thing that I talked about earlier, and I'll show you both right now. First with the commutator, sometimes you'll end up, say, like this. You want to orient the two so that they're projections of each other. So notice how this and this are aligned. You don't want it to be like this because that's not really the same position. So here they're projected, and you want to move the hole up, turn the side 90 degrees. You can turn it this way or this way, it doesn't matter. But let's say you turn it this way. You want to replace the hole with something from the middle layer, like this, and then you want to restore. So go like this, and notice how this piece now aligns there, and bring that back. So here it is again, bring this up, 90 degrees, fill the hole, restore, restore. If the hole is on the bottom, it's the same principle. Make sure they're projections of each other, bring the hole up, turn it 90 degrees, fill the hole with the appropriate layer, restore, restore. There is another way to do it. Sometimes for last two centers you end with this. So what you can do is if you bring these two up, you'll notice this is actually Space Shuttle. So if you look at the orange, it's the Space Shuttle thing I was talking about. As far as the green goes, it's in a isosceles triangle like this, and it's basically just whatever's left from the Space Shuttle. So you do the same thing, turn it away, U2, turn it back, and now you notice that this is paired, and now you have to realign everything here. So you go like this. Here it is again. Notice how these are in opposite places because you want to bring this up to form an isosceles triangle. So now this red is misaligned. Turn this 90 degrees, do the Space Shuttle, and then bring the bar in the same layer as the red, bring it back, and now they're all solved. So this does conclude part 3 of the tutorial series. You'll notice that for the cases I really didn't show that many, and that's because I don't use that many for 5x5. Those are actually all of the ones that I use. I think sometimes people try to really complicate things for 5x5 centers when you can do things very simply, and hopefully this video did help you. Again, I will be doing walkthrough solves in part 5, so if you want to see how I actually apply those cases, you can stick around for part 5. So thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so that you can be notified of the future parts. Toodles.